William F. Cody, better known as Buffalo Bill, is one of the most endearing personalities in the annals of the Old West. A scout, buffalo hunter, Indian peacemaker, author, stage actor, and showman, Cody was one of the first performers to appear in motion pictures. On this episode of History Hunters, Jeff checks out locations in Colorado associated with Cody, including the Denver house where he died and his grave atop Lookout Mountain. Jeff is flying to Colorado for a family visit centered on his son's graduation, but he plans to take advantage of free time there to explore sites associated with Buffalo Bill's life.
Bunch of munch kids in this car. There they are. Hey, Turkey! Hi, Turkey!
Hello, Black.
What are you doing? What's so funny? What's so funny?
It's raining.
It's not raining.
No.
Oh my gosh. Is she that corny? Yeah. Crazy grandkids back there. I think they're glad to see me.
The colorful life of Buffalo Bill started out as infant William Frederick Cody in 1846 in LeClaire, Iowa. His father died when he was 11. Legend has it that Will rode the Pony Express at age 14. During the Civil War, Cody served in the Union Army. Later, he served as a civilian scout for the Army during the Indian Wars, receiving the Medal of Honor in 1872 for gallantry. He became known for superb hunting skills when slaughtering buffalo to feed both the Army and Kansas Railroad workers. Cody reportedly killed nearly 4,500 buffalo in an 18-month stretch during 1867 and 1868. By 1872, Cody was performing live on stage and in 1883 founded Buffalo Bill's Wild West Show, taking a large company on tours in the United States. In 1887, he took his show to England and Europe.
We packed into the van and drove through downtown Colorado Springs before heading off to a quaint former mining town in the shadow of the massive Pikes Peak. Founded in 1871 by General William Jackson Palmer, Manitou Springs began as a resort area nicknamed Little London because of the popularity with English tourists. Today, it's a sort of hippie Mayberry where each October coffins are raced down the hill to commemorate the odd 1929 incident in which a summer flood washed the coffin of Emma Crawford downhill.
We are in Manitou Springs, Old Town.
Up the street, we found the Cliff House, where Cody spent some time.
I am thrilled beyond belief to know that I just passed by a hotel. Buffalo Bill Cody.
This is the way the Cliff House looked around the time that Cody knew it. The inn was built in 1873 and has been open to guests longer than Colorado has been a state. Originally, the structure was a 20-room boarding house and stage stop on the way from Colorado Springs to Leadville. In the spring of 1859, when he was just 13 years of age, Bill Cody journeyed to the gold fields in the Pikes Peak area of Colorado to become a prospector. After finding the work unproductive, he left to become a Pony Express rider at age 14. As we strolled down the sidewalk, we were attracted to the rustic Stagecoach Inn restaurant for lunch, and I found out from the business owner that Buffalo Bill had stopped in for drinks.
So fancy and true. Whoa! Whoa!
You're in the Stagecoach. See you later. Have a fun ride.
Let me out!
So it used to be a whorehouse, huh?
Yeah. Oh, this was a vice and alcohol town for the miners that were coming down from Cripple Creek.
Okay.
There's more out here. That's when this place was just one building, little bitty building.
Any famous people stop here?
Roosevelt. Nixon was the last president to be in this building.
Did Thomas Edison ever come in here?
Edison, Tesla,
Tesla. I'm trying to think of
Buffalo Bill.
the rooms at the Cliff House.
It's rumored that Wild Bill was here, but we can't prove it. Doc Holliday was here in town for quite a while, so I know he was here.
Wow.
The last man Doc Holliday killed was where our town clock is down the street.
So when they were here, this was a hotel?
When they were here, this was a saloon.
Oh, really? This is it, huh? Now, after learning about all the famous people who have visited this place, you can add one more to the list. Jeff of History Hunters. And it's So the list of people who have stayed here is so long I need to read it to you off the internet. Clark Gable stayed here, P.T. Barnum stayed here, Thomas Edison, Theodore Roosevelt, Charles Dickens, J. Paul Getty, and none other than Buffalo Bill. Near the Cliff House is the Manitou Springs Arcade Amusements, a whole block of games and rides for the kids. Okay, we're gonna go see Buffalo Bill's grave. Say Buffalo Bill.
Buffalo Bill.
On the day of my departure, we set out for Lafayette Street, in one of Denver's oldest neighborhoods. I was curious to see the home where Buffalo Bill died. So on November 11th, 1916, Buffalo Bill closed out his Wild West show in Portsmouth, Massachusetts, and he decided to spend a couple of days with his sister here in Denver on this street, Lafayette Street. He spent 4 days here, and he then went home to his CE ranch there in Cody, Wyoming. He returned to Denver in early December to write a series of short articles for William Randolph Hearst, and he developed a cold here. It got so bad that they thought he was going to pass away. So Louisa, his wife, his daughter Irma were called to the house to spend the last days with him. However, he got better. He stayed here in Denver. It's this house right here behind me where his sister lived. Because he was so old, his health was in such decline, he was sent to Glenwood Springs to enjoy the therapeutic waters on January 3rd, and 2 days later he developed a nervous breakdown. They thought they could send him to Wyoming to pass away, but he was too ill to actually make the trip. So he returned to this house, and on January 10th, St. Buffalo Bill died in the house behind me. It is said that the Boy Scouts camped out on this porch to dispatch the latest information during the death watch, but they must have carried his body right out of this entryway. This house was built in 1892, so it's one of the most historic areas of Denver.
Ladies and gentlemen, permit me to introduce to you a Congress of the Rough Riders of the World.
I'm jazzed because this is such a historic spot.
At 12:05 p.m. Denver time, Buffalo Bill drew his last breath. Many worldwide felt a personal loss. His body lay in state at the Colorado State Capitol building where 18,000 mourners filed past his coffin. The funeral service was held at the Elks Lodge. The lid was closed and the casket was draped with an American flag, then loaded up onto a wagon to be pulled by horses through the chilly streets of Denver.
You thrilled to take the Buffalo Bill tour?
Absolutely not.
But it's the old part of town, right?
This is a cool part of town.
Pretty run-down buildings. The thing about the May Decker's house is that they almost tore it down, but a couple thought that it would be tragic to have that happen, so they bought it and restored it, and now I think they had it on the market for $595,000.
Jeff and his deputized history hunters ride to the former mortuary at Boulder Street and West 30th Avenue in Denver, where Buffalo Bill's body was prepared for burial.
This may sound kind of gross to you, but the funeral parlor that held the body of Buffalo Bill for 5 months has been turned into a bar and a restaurant. It's called Linger. They dropped the O because the funeral parlor was called Olinger.
It's a nice place.
What, the funeral parlor?
No.
Then turn right onto South Grapevine Road toward Paradise Hills.
Why is Buffalo Bill so popular even these days?
I don't know that he's popular these days, but the old days, before there were movie stars, they had these Western characters who were featured in dime novels. They were fanciful stories with pictures, and they often bragged about what they did when they really didn't do everything that they said they did. He killed buffalo for a living for the army, and so he supplied that for the railroads. And then he decided, since most people didn't get to see the Old West, that he would bring the Old West to them. So he created the show, the Wild West show, and he brought Indians, he brought certain animals, he staged fights with Indians, he staged stagecoach robberies, and people were just fascinated. You got to realize that audiences back then weren't as sophisticated as they are today. Whereas today, if you watched a movie shot in the 30s, you would think it was really stupid and hokey. At the time of his death, he was probably one of the most famous people in the world. And then, not long after that, came along Charles Lindbergh, who was probably bigger than him at the time. Unfortunately, we're not going to be able to get a view of Denver today. It's very foggy.
The destination is on your left, Buffalo Bill Memorial Museum.
you lock it up? We are at the Haska Teepee, which was a creation of Johnny Baker, who was Buffalo Bill's protege, and it's a popular tourist attraction that sells a lot of souvenirs related to the Old West and Buffalo Bill.
Bahaska is the Lakota India term for long hair, which Cody sported throughout his 70 years of life.
But they also serve buffalo burgers of all things. A lot of gambling machines. Of course, you would expect to see a buffalo head here, right? You can actually order buffalo burgers from this grill. What is that?
Candy.
That looks like rocks. Oh yeah, there's some books here.
Alright, you look at look. There's lots of things that are breakable, so please don't touch them.
Lots of things here that you can buy related to Buffalo Bill, including a portrait. It's pretty cool, but I've got an actual signed photo, which you can't beat that. You can't buy those here either.
If you'd like to take a look at that, it's a signed photo of Buffalo Bill.
Well, this is a cabinet card.
Yeah, well over 100 years old.
That's pretty cool. How much you want for it?
I was hoping to get $4,000 for it.
Quite honestly, I have no idea if that's a good price or not. I'll give you $1,000.
I don't know if I'm willing to go less than $1,500.
I mean, I'd go $1,100. I mean, the problem is anything more than that, I'm not going to make any money.
Dang, that's disappointing. I really like it too much to let it go for that.
$1,150?
I get $1,500.
Not going to happen.
He's a hole.
A lot of trinkets and stuff. Love is being owned by a Springer Spaniel. This buffalo is over 100 years old. Looks like somebody got cut off at the knees. You guys want Grandpa to buy you something?
Oh, he said no.
Wild Wild West.
No.
For the 5th time since 1997, Jeff makes his way up the steps leading to the Cody gravesite. He was here in 2012, and in 2013, and in 2016, and now 2018.
How many times have you guys been here?
Too many.
Because you're related to me.
The only time we've been here is with you. I think we've been here 3 times. This is our 3rd?
Maybe.
3rd?
4th. How many times for your kids? This is our first with all 3.
Yeah, first with Oliver too, I think.
Doesn't this excite you every time you come here? Not in the least. he had to actually ask why Buffalo Bill was famous.
Louisa died in 1921 and was buried next to her famous husband.
It was reported that Louisa dabbled in the occult, frequently consulting Ouija boards, spiritual mediums, and horoscopes. During their long period of estrangement from Christmas 1901 to March 1910, Louisa consulted the Ouija board to see if Cody still loved her, and it spelled out Y-E-S. Convinced that Cody didn't love her and that the board was wrong, Louisa reportedly got up and threw the board in the floor.
His wife is buried here as well?
Yes.
She lived to be 6 years older.
Yeah. They had some marital problems. They had a well-publicized divorce, then he was vilified. He's kind of a womanizer and stuff. He was a drinker. He had a drinking problem. He also had a smoking problem. It's probably why he had heart ailments at the age that he did.
Why do people throw money on his grave?
I guess they think it's good luck.
So he was 71 when he died?
Yeah, he led a pretty rough life.
With the crunchy paper on your face?
We got a live action shootout here.
I'll hold the crunchy paper.
What's gonna happen? Here at the...
Get this little kid. This is Wild Bill.
You're not doing with my
Ollie, get Daddy.
Come here.
No!
Come here.
Look at him!
We've had a shooting.
Shoot him!
Oliver's last.
Shoot him in the head!
Falling in.
Somehow I'm not thinking that a gunfight at a gravesite is very respectful of the dead. Why do people throw money at the grave? Here's your answer right here. They put an Indian head nickel on the grave to honor Buffalo Bill. Now that's Mr. Cody when he was 18. That's Louisa.
Hey.
Although when she was older, she gained a lot more weight than that. Pictures I've seen of her.
Excuse me?
There seems to be a controversy today about whether or not Buffalo Bill is buried here. I'm not sure why that is true, because about 10,000 people were allowed to look at his body on the day that he was buried. I think it was June 3rd, 1917.
Although he died on January 10th, Cody desired to be buried on Decoration Day, now known as Memorial Day. The burial date was moved to June 3rd so that the Grand Army of the Republic could attend.
The concrete apron was not here at the time. It was later placed for the ease of the visitors who visit this location.
Famous operatic tenor Enrico Caruso paid his respects to Cody with his entourage in 1920. The following year, Caruso himself was in a grave at the age of 48. Other famous visitors to the grave included Hollywood filmmaker Cecil B. DeMille, an admirer of Buffalo Bill who made a movie about him in 1936.
And as you can see, there are still a lot of people that come here to pay their respects to Buffalo Bill, even though most people don't even know who he was. It says here we should learn more about Buffalo Bill in the museum, so I think we're going to go check it out. Are you shooting people? I'm going to check out the museum. My son has been here so many times he doesn't want to see it anymore. That's how bad of a history hunter I am. This details Cody's feelings for his son-in-law, Johnny Baker. All right, so we're going to check out some of the artifacts from William Cody's life. The first thing I'm greeted by here is a cutout of Annie Oakley, and a quote saying that William Cody was the kindest, simplest, most loyal man she had ever knew. Beginning in 1885, sharpshooter Annie Oakley traveled with Buffalo Bill's Wild West show for 17 years. Born in 1860, the death of her father meant that she grew up impoverished and without a decent education. As a tomboy, she began shooting and hunting by age 8 to sell games to support her siblings and widowed mother. Her talents as a sharpshooter surfaced in 1875 when, at the age of 15, she won a shooting match against Frank Butler, a traveling show marksman. Butler and Annie married in 1876. Nicknamed the Little Sure Shot by Indian Chief Sitting Bull, Annie Oakley became the star attraction for Buffalo Bill's show, renowned for unparalleled shooting tricks. It is said that she could shoot off the end of a cigarette held in the mouth of her husband and shoot distant targets while looking in the mirror. She retired in 1913 and died 13 years later. Carved bench that was made in Switzerland and purchased in Italy for Buffalo Bill by Johnny Baker. Oh yeah, he was an explorer too. The museum features this, one of 2 hand-painted lamps which were commissioned in Italy when Buffalo Bill toured there in 1890. They were for his daughters, Arda and Irma. See one of his costumes. There's a little bit about the burial. This is interesting. This is the actual bugle that played taps at his funeral. There it is up there. Some distant relatives in Wyoming were not happy with the decision to bury Cody in Colorado. They insisted Cody had always wanted to be buried in his beloved town of Cody, the town he founded. Some believe that the body was switched out with the body of a look-alike during the burial on Lookout Mountain, while the real Buffalo Bill was planted in Wyoming or Rochester, New York with his children. But its theory doesn't hold water. This is a saddle that was manufactured in 1897 and a buckskin jacket and pants worn by Buffalo Bill in the latter 1890s. This is his actual desk and camp chair, portable desk that he took from town to town when he traveled with the circus. These are glass balls that were actually shot, well, probably used by Annie Oakley, but not shot at, obviously. An eerie display is the life cast of Buffalo Bill's hand made just before his death. And by the way, did we mention that he used his hand in a most unusual handshake? The following is a recording of Buffalo Bill's actual voice as he described the wonders of Thomas Edison's phonograph, superimposed on a moving picture of Cody conversing with Chief Irontail through Indian Sign Language.
It is a great pleasure to see this wonder-working man at his task, and to find that though he is Superman to all the world, he is very human at home and among those who labor with him. He has made the dynamo that has changed the world. It seems almost uncanny that the voice in this place can be perpetuated, and that he has sent out to the world his phonographs, which have given more entertainment and pleasure than any invention in the history of the world.
Very cool stained glass. So after visiting the museum, I made a mistake earlier. I called Johnny Baker his son-in-law. It was actually a foster son of his that he dearly loved as his own.
Buffalo Bill took an immediate liking to Johnny Baker, who idolized the famous scout as a boy of 7. Born in 1869, Johnny became somewhat of a surrogate son after the death of Cody's only son, Kit, in 1876. Cody eventually took the boy under his care and placed him in the show as the sharpshooting act, The Cowboy Kid. He considered Baker his foster son, although he had no legal papers to claim that. When Baker found out Cody was dying in Denver, he immediately boarded a train to be with him, but was unable to arrive in time to say goodbye. As death loomed closer, Buffalo Bill reportedly told those gathered in the house, "I wish Johnny would come." Baker founded the Buffalo Bill Memorial Museum in Pahascatipi. He died in 1931 and is buried in Rochester, New York.
The controversy about whether or not Mr. Cody should be dug up and placed in Cody, Wyoming, was settled once and for all when Johnny Baker decided to bury both the bodies of Mr. and Mrs. Cody under concrete so that nobody could ever dig him up.
Before saying goodbye, we spent our last hours together in Idaho Springs and a required stop at Bojo's Pizza and an ice cream parlor where Evelyn let us all know how she really felt about me dragging them on a Buffalo Bill history hunt.
This is kind of good, but the Buffalo Bill is going.
I trust that you enjoyed our visit to the Buffalo Bill Gravesite and Museum, as well as some historic sites associated with his life. For now, that's History Hunters episode number 7.